I am live right now.
All right. You're entering the broadcast studio. All right. Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. We, for some reason, lost all of our sound. And apparently there was something wrong with my voice as well. And we shut it down completely. And we're going to give it another shot here in, well, just a second. And not sure what's going on, but I have no people joining us.
Come on, hurry up. Okay. Try it again.
All right. Are we back?
Oh, we're back.
All right. Apparently we're back. Apparently we've had some technical difficulties we haven't had in quite a while. And we were originally told that our sound was off and that my voice was very deep. And we tried everything out here. We put on the headphones, sounded fine. In fact, still sound fine, but I'm not sure. I think I can hear myself. Sounds fine to me. And but I'm not sure we're broadcasting there, Frank.
Yeah, there's one people. Yeah, it should be.
I don't see anybody here.
Come on. Yeah, you're live. Yes. Sounds normal.
Okay, do we sound better now? That was very odd. All right. Not exactly sure what was going on, but we were having some technical issues. I think it was the YouTube cabal that was trying to mess with us, but hopefully now it sounds better. And apparently we've done nothing other than simply restart what we were working on here on the platform. This was working out much better. Facebook. Okay, apparently it was working on Facebook. Who knew? All right. Scout Inquirer. Greetings and respect from New York. Greetings. Good night. Good evening. So there we're back. Like I said, sorry for the trouble, the legal issue or the audio issues that we had there as we were discussing our legal stuff this evening. Bottom line is, sorry about that. Yeah. Thanks for sticking with us. It's always frustrating when there's something like that going on where it was actually working quite well. But anyway, it is what it is. You improvise, you adapt, you overcome. It's just part of life. Not going to get upset about it. Particularly when I think it's not anything that we can particularly do in any particular way. So when we left off, right before I left because of sound issues, we were talking about the Chad Daybell matter, and the only way these two, Vallow and Daybell, are going to have a shot of winning this case is not to keep asking for continuances and stop asking for the, giving the government chances to fix their case. And not that I'm rooting for them. I'm just saying that's the only way they're going to do it. The only one who has a shot at winning this particular case, I think, based upon the attorneys I've seen thus far, is Mr. Pryor, Chad Daybell's attorney. Attorney for Lori Vallow. I mean, this guy couldn't litigate his way out of a wet paper bag, in my humble opinion. He's done nothing that would even remotely suggest he knows what the hell is going on, let alone what he is doing in a courtroom, let alone in a case that basically is a homicide case that's not charged as a homicide case because they simply don't have enough evidence, right? There was a lot of stuff the other day. Somebody put something up on the Facebook page about Lori Vallow, and they're going to charge people down in Arizona for the death of her ex-husband, and it's going to come. in 4 to 6 months. Well, that article was written like 4 to 6 months ago. So yeah, listen, they're not charging anybody. Homicides, murders, those take priorities in most jurisdictions. And if they had enough evidence, they would go forward with it. Yeah, Mark Means he's a civil attorney. That's right. And I've said this before, and he may be a fine human being. He may be a fine lawyer. Okay. But bottom line is, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I'll tell it to anybody. Anyone can be a lawyer. Okay. You go to law school, you learn a bunch of stuff, you take an exam. A lot of people can be a litigator. You know, a litigator is somebody that nitpicks every little nuance in a civil case and files objections and pleadings and can draft motions and never goes to court and, has never tried a case in their life. A trial attorney is someone who actually goes to trial. Bottom line, somebody that actually goes to trial and tries cases and wins cases. And so there's a difference between an attorney, a litigator, and a trial attorney. A trial attorney, in my humble opinion, is at the top of the pyramid. Why? Because that's what I think that I am. I am a trial attorney. Anybody can be a litigator. Oh, let's go back and forth. Oh, you filed a motion for disclosures and I'm going to object and I'm going to list all my objections that it's going to go on for a paragraph and all the reasons why I'm objecting. But if I have to answer, the answer is no. Like sometimes you just have to accept facts. And that's the part, like I said, my firm does some civil work and it just wears me out. It's exhausting. It's like, call me when we get to trial. Let's go do the trial. Antoinette Stone. Criminal cases, totally different ballgame. All right. There's just something about it. Most civil cases, it's a breach of contract. Maybe it's a personal injury case, a mass tort case that actually gets to a jury. Maybe it's an intellectual property case. But that's why I have complete faith and trust in jurors, is that they handle all of these type of cases all the time. Everyday citizens go in and the court, basically requires both sides to present something very complex and make it very simple so that everybody can understand it, which is always good. Got to get through law school first before you can be an attorney, a litigator, or a trial attorney. Yes, Rebecca. But you know what? Anybody. That's why attorneys get bad names. People say, oh, you have no heart. You have no feelings. The law is reason without passion. You have to be able to decide these are the facts. Like, oh, that's really sad that somebody's going to be put out, but they didn't pay their rent, so I have to evict you. I'm sorry. Those are the rules. There's not it's so sweet. Can't we figure something else out? No, that's not it. So yes, go to law school. I encourage anyone to go to law school. It is not that difficult. It's just a different way of thinking. You have to throw out the way that you have been taught through your first, 12 years of high school and more than likely college, which is to argue emotion, pick a side, and argue with all your passion. Now, when I used to teach, I would argue both sides. People are like, which way do you believe? I don't. You tell me. You can't tell? Guess I must be doing a good job arguing both sides. And that's what a lawyer can do. If you can argue both sides just as convincingly as you can, the one side that you pick and you feel firmly about, it always drives me bonkers when, district attorneys say, I don't think I could ever come to the dark side, Scott. I just couldn't do it. I'm on the side of truth, justice, and the American way. And I look at it, well, so am I. I'm on the side of truth, justice, and the American way. What's more of the American way than the United States Constitution? Justice, that's what I want for my client. Absolutely. We want the truth to come out. And so it really just kind of bugs me when they say that, like, oh, like somehow they're better. No, I'm defending the Constitution on a daily basis. And so anyway, go to law school. It teaches you how to think, and think about it. If you were so committed to one side, let's pick any argument, any issue that you think is absolutely that you hold near and dear and deep to your heart. You should be able to argue everything that the other side is saying. But if you're one of those people who says, you know what? I'm not going to talk to you because you're going to question my thinking. I mean, like, what is that? The cancel culture? I mean, thank God we don't have the cancel culture in a courtroom. There'd be nowhere to go. Oh no, you said something offensive. You're right. I'm a trial attorney. I have a license to be offensive. And you know what's offensive? The truth and the facts. And if people get offended by that, don't care. Don't care. You have to be able to do that. And you have to be able to say, I don't care what these people are going to say about me. I don't care because I am doing what I think is right. And that's what the facts are. And hopefully they will agree with us. And like I said, thank God we haven't got that way in court yet where, oh, you're going to say something. You can't offend somebody. Sometimes I ask in voir dire and ask them, hey, there's a case and there's some young kids going to be witnesses in this case. Now understand, I got to do what I got to do. You're going to hold that against me or my client. Facts will be coming from this. You need to know them. It's going to be important. And bottom line is, most people are like, yeah, I get it. You're just doing your job, man. So hopefully, that, like I said, that will, it'll never get there. You can't talk about that. It's going to get, you're going to get, you're going to offend people. We can't have that. Hey, Scott, active duty Air Force here. Would you recommend being a JAG officer in the military or getting out and doing the civilian sector? Well, it depends on ultimately what you want to do, Caitlin. I was a judge advocate in the Marine Corps. I was prior enlisted before that, obviously. And it just depends what you want to do. At the point when I went back in, times were tough in the sense of it wasn't a great economy. When I was getting out of school, I had, I thought I was going to fly in the military. That didn't quite come about. So, I was like, I just felt like I had to do it, had to become, a Marine Corps officer. So I went back in. Of course, I had to go back and do, the basic school, officer candidate school all over again. It's a lot easier when you're 18, 19 than when you're 25. But we did it. It was a great experience. The Air Force, their JAG system is a little different. They have okay, you've been designated a trial attorney. So you'll go do all the cases and then we'll have somebody work up the cases till you get there. The last military court martial I did, it's probably been about 5-6 years. They were good. I'm a big fan of the military. Wholeheartedly support it. You get some great experience, particularly if you're at a busy duty station. If you're not, you can create good work by just really digging in into the cases. The military, obviously you're not going to get the financial reward as you would in the private sector, but you're not going to get that for the first 4 or 5 years anyway. Because you don't know anything as a young lawyer in those first couple of years. I don't care where you are, what you're doing, how smart you think you are. You're just dangerous at that point. And it depends on what you want to do. It depends on the type of law you want to do. That's ultimately what it comes down to. I knew I wanted to be in the courtroom, and people that I talked to in the private sector were like, well, if you, it'll be 5-6 years till you get to go try a case. As soon as I got commissioned, I finished the Naval Justice School in Newport, Rhode Island, was there, got to my duty station. Man, I was, checked in and boom, we were in the courtroom. It was good to go. So Caitlin, it just depends on what you want to do. Yeah, Judge Advocate Generals. They're judge advocates. For sure. Yep, exactly. The YouTube cabal was trying to take us down, but we're not going to let them do that. Hey, Scott, can you give a little bit more detail on Chris Watts and why he has no chance of getting relief from a 35C? Yeah, here's the bottom line. He pled guilty. You pled guilty. When you plead guilty, you waive having all those motions heard. I assure you, Chris Watts' attorneys would have filed a motion to suppress his statements in court. They discussed that with him. They told him they were going to do whatever they needed to do for him for his case. And then guess what? He pleads guilty. It's done. He's not getting a 35C. All right. Scott Reich, are you that really smart lawyer guy from Denver area representing Miss Maxwell? No. Although I wish I was. Well, I take that back because that really smart lawyer is handling the civil side of it, but she's a very, very smart attorney. It is not me. But could you imagine the billable time being spent on that particular case? Oh, my goodness. And apparently she has resources. I mean, she's hired a lot of attorneys. So wish it was me. That would be a very, very lucrative case. I can imagine that. Carrots and cookies. What do you think about new Supreme Court Justice candidate ACB, Amy Coney Barrett? I think she is a very smart woman, obviously, clearly qualified. She already sits on the Seventh Circuit. She was a law professor to that. She clerked at the United States Supreme Court. You usually got to be pretty smart to even get there. She is an originalist, a textualist, whatever you want to call it, but basically says, these are what the words say. We're not going to change it. If the whole system comes crumbling down, it's not the court's fault. Have the Congress or the legislators go and fix it. I like that form of judicial philosophy. I do not like judges that get up and say, well, I just think it's unfair if this happens, so let me rewrite this. Well, Judge, why are you changing the rules on me mid-game? I hate that. I hate it. So, all right. Let's give a big shout out there to Annika as well. All right. Scott. All right. Thank you, Soli. Appreciate that. All right. Yeah. Watts is never getting out. Okay. Will Chris Watts' confession be taken into account with a 35C? Yes. But he pled guilty. Okay. And there's some things that just, sometimes you just can't give people false hope. And I get it. Post-conviction relief work is, it's difficult work because you have people that have literally lost at every stage of the proceedings. They're on death row. They're going to spend the rest of their life in prison. Post-conviction relief work is very difficult. You literally have to go back and recreate the wheel. Sometimes you have very short timelines in which to do that. And you only get one bite at the apple. So you have to, it's difficult work. But 35Cs are, that's normally for people that have gone to trial, always profess their innocence. Maybe the attorney was bad. Maybe there's new evidence. There's something that's just not right. We've seen all the cases where people are exonerated, 20, 30, 35 years later, where they said, I've been telling you people for 40 years, it wasn't me. Nobody believed me. That's where the case of 35Cs are meant to come in. That's where habeas, after the post-conviction relief, is completed in the state court. Then you go to the federal court for habeas issues. But you have to exhaust all of those remedies that exist prior to that. And it's, it's I'm telling you, it's if someone in his family had contacted me at this point and said, we want you to hire him, we're on a limited budget, I tell him, save your money, because I don't think there's anything I can do, right? And these people, for whatever reason, I mean, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, even if, and I've talked about this 2 years ago, even if Chris Watts, even if you think that he was not responsible for the death of his 2 children, even if you think that theory, he still confessed to killing his wife, Shanann, which is still punishable by life without the possibility of parole. It's the case is overwhelming. The evidence is overwhelming against the defendant. You get those 35 C's on the close cases where there's new evidence, where there's something that goes there. Bottom line is he's not going anywhere. Okay. One of the things they have to, there's a thing in appellate courts that says, although there was error, it was harmless in light of the overwhelming evidence. That's code for, dude, you're so freaking guilty. You're entitled to a fair trial, not a perfect trial. So get over it. You're so freaking guilty. And that's what it would be in that particular case. Somebody asked a question here. He's guilty because, Christy, I agree. He's guilty because he pled guilty. And when you plead guilty, you're admitting as a matter of law and as a matter of fact that they are, in fact, that you're pleading guilty to what you're being accused of, and you did it. You're guilty. If you didn't do it, you shouldn't plead guilty. Hell, the judge told him that. It's just, and I know some people get completely tired of it, but it's kind of the case that just doesn't, go away. Let's see. Lawyer informed him that would have happened since he confessed. Yeah, there's no doubt that in my mind that his attorneys, the public defenders that he had, there was a potential death penalty case. They talked to him thoroughly about what he was doing before he pled guilty. There's no doubt in my mind. So yeah, not concerned at all. There was somebody asked the question here. I think it said, what would you do if you were, Chris Watts' attorneys from the beginning? Well, I would have told him to sit down, shut up, and let me do my job. You've done enough already. And we would have to try to get his statements suppressed. That's what you would have had to done. Would have come up with something based upon the evidence or the lack thereof, at least reasonable inferences from that. But the reality of it is that when you plead guilty, it's done. Somebody needs to sit and have a talk with him and say, Chris, I know you now feel a lot of remorse for what you've done. And Chris, I know that this is not what you think is God's mission to go forth in the rest of your days. But someone needs to say, hey, Chris, I hate to say it, man, but you pled guilty. Oh, and by the way, you then confessed to killing your wife and 2 kids that you gave voluntarily, completely voluntary. So I'm not sure what you're trying to accomplish here. I get it now. You've been in here a couple of years in prison. You probably got a couple of women writing to you, maybe some people putting money on your books, but you've come to the realization that you're never, ever going to, be able to attend, for example, funerals for your family members. You're going to miss all the birthdays. Eventually, people are going to stop picking up that phone when you call because they know, what are they going to talk about? Hey, how was your day? And maybe you trying to get a new trial is going to give you something to get you through the day. But somebody needs to have that heartfelt talk and say, dude, you're not going anywhere. And if you think this was, you're the mission of God that's going to, go start a little ministry there in the prison. Okay. But get comfortable, dude. You're not going anywhere. Okay. I mean, maybe the law will change where they, repeal, life without parole sentences or something along those lines, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So he just needs to get comfortable, bottom line. No turning back. Yes, the Kessinger name change hearing is Thursday in Golden. Am I going to go? My plan is to attend. I will be very curious to see if the court will conduct those proceedings on WebEx or whether it's going to be just in the courtroom. My plan is to attend, and not because we're trying to do anything mean or anything weird to Miss Kessinger, but it's the truth. It's the facts. She wants to change her name. What's wrong with that? We're just stating the facts. She, in fact, filed a petition to change her name. She has an attorney who filed a petition to change her name. She has to do certain things, i.e. posted in the newspaper for a certain number of days. We'll see if that seems to be, if she's dotted all the I's and crossed the T's, and we'll see if that happens. And then she'll be given a new name, and we'll get to see what her new name is. Not trying to be mean or cruel or anything along those lines. It simply is, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, she can change her name, but it doesn't change the fact that she was Nicole Kessinger, who just happened to be having an affair with Christopher Watts, who wanted to be with her, maybe not his wife and children, and thought the only way to start over was to, kill his wife and kids, an unborn child. I don't know. You can change your name lots and lots of times, but doesn't change the fact that you are part of that in some way. And I'm not saying she did anything wrong. There's been no charges. She's given the presumption of innocence like everyone is, even those that included with charges. But the reality of it is that it's the facts, and it doesn't change anything. Antoinette, Nicole's embarrassed. I'm sure she is. I'm sure everybody knows. Everybody Googles her. Or they go and they get a background subscription service and at crimetalksearch.com, and where you can search everybody's name and you can see. And Miss Kessinger, I can tell you that she has done a very fine job of keeping off of social media. She's done a very fine job of really not doing much of anything, lots of addresses where people lived beforehand, some phone numbers and things like that. But, it's not anything that we're going to give out to anybody along those lines. She's done a pretty good job of hiding out for the last 2 years. And I think this was her final plan or final step was to change her name. So we'll see if that comes to fruition on Thursday. We'll just have to wait and see. But, if there's somebody out there you want to do a background search on, go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for that subscription. You can search as many people as you want, and you can do it anonymously. And some of the reports, they're only 7 pages. We ran one, what was it? It was like 60 pages long. It is amazing. All right. Everybody has something going on. Everybody has something in their life that they don't want the world to know. So, I think it's an invaluable tool. Bottom line is it's a good tool. You can do it. And, we'll just have to see how things go. Let's see here. Can I say, Scott, you're wrong in Chris Watts appealing in his case? YouTube monitors. Can I say, Scott, you're wrong? You can say I'm wrong, and maybe I will be wrong. And I will bet you $1 that I am right, that he does not get a new trial. Scott, what is going on? What is going to do for her by changing her name? Everyone will still know her new name. She is still the same person who has seen a married man who killed his entire family. I can't disagree with you more. People will know. It will be out there. It will be on the internet somewhere. Everything that she does will ultimately be able to do that. Track her down. Let's see. What do you think about packing the court? Is it unconstitutional? Well, I don't think that they should pack the court, in my humble opinion, but there is nothing that prevents the Congress from packing the court. I think that the current number of justices has been set at 9 since about 1870. But, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a man who, for lack of a better term, completely did away with the United States Constitution, and made it where the, federal government could be involved in everything that you do, threatened to pack the court. Why? Because he wasn't getting his legislation through at the time, and he threatened to pack the court. And then the court said, okay, don't do that. We'll maybe rethink some of our opinions. I think that's wrong. But there's nothing out there to prevent the number of justices being increased or decreased, because the Constitution does not specify how many members will be in the Supreme Court. So any party in power could increase the Supreme Court at any time. Obviously, the president would have to sign it. But I personally think it's not a good idea, because next thing you know, we'll have, let's see, they think right now it'll be a 6-3. So they got to increase those. So let's add 9. So we have the power. Then the next party that gets in power, they're going to get in there and increase it, so that they have power. And next thing you know, it's going to be like it's going to be a political court, like a little third world country. I hate to say it. Listen, every one of those people that are on the Supreme Court are more than capable of being fine justices, right? I think anyone will agree that they're going to be great. But justices and judges all over the United States are, I know a lot of judges. I knew them before they were judges. All right. And if you knew some of their personal opinions that they had on things, hopefully they'll be able to, set those feelings aside and simply follow the law. And I think most judges will do that because they know they have to follow the law. They're bound by precedent. They're bound to follow the rule of law. And when you don't do that, you lose legitimacy. If you change the rules mid-course, like I said, then you turn into a little third world country where it just depends on who's in power, depending on how many justices they can put on the court. Listen, it's called politics. People don't like her. People think that, they shouldn't have, this political background, or they could reverse this case. They could do that. Guess what? If the right case came up today in the court, the justices could have done it the other day. They could do it anytime they wanted to. There was that interview I was listening to. A lot of people are worried about Amy Coney Barrett because of Roe v. Wade. And they're saying, oh my gosh, she's going to reverse Roe v. Wade. Obviously, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was obviously very pro Roe v. Wade, but she also said that if they were to do it again, looking back in hindsight, what did Ruth Bader Ginsburg say? She said they should have amended the Constitution versus the court saying it. Okay. And this is what it gets into. And I'm not trying to pick a side. All right. I'm not picking sides in any way. But the bottom line is you have an originalist that looks at the document, and, when they were arguing Roe v. Wade, and I remember I had law professors say, this is really not a very good case because they made it up. All right. Because I think if you read the Constitution, and I've read it a couple of times, I've never seen the word, you have a right to an abortion in the Constitution. And I'm not picking sides here. All right. I'm all about people being able to do what they want. Okay. But nowhere in the Constitution does it say you have a right to an abortion. Nobody's found it. So was it, I think it was Justice Blackmun. I think it was Blackmun who wrote the opinion, who said, yeah, it may not be in there, but we're going to find this issue. It's in the penumbra of the Fourth Amendment, maybe a little bit of the Fifth Amendment as well, for a privacy interest. And therefore, we're going to decree, legislate from the court that now it's legal. Now, whether you think that's a good decision or bad decision, I don't know. But why do you think, people are still so bitter about it one way or the other? That it was kind of, for lack of a better term, they were told this is what they're going to do. They didn't have any say in the matter. And if it was so, and here in Colorado, I think it was one of the first states that legalized abortions. So I'm sure Colorado would have been right on board saying, let's do that. Let's sign up, change the Constitution. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, if Roe v. Wade would be reversed, does it mean one day all of a sudden abortions are illegal? No. Guess what? It would go back to the states like it was before 1973. Some states could say, well, you can do it here. You can't do it here. Hell, we have some counties in various states that are still dry counties because that's what they believe is what's best for their city. It goes back to the states. So I think people get a little spun up about that. And I'm not looking at it from a political point of view, frankly. Don't want to get involved in personal decisions like that for people. Not my place to say, oh, this is the way you have to do it. But the reality of it is, I think any legitimate constitutional professor, and I remember I had a constitutional professor who completely agreed with the Roe v. Wade, but he said it was a horribly written and reasoned decision. And that's why people are still bickering about it to this date, because it was not a well-reasoned legal opinion. And when you got Ruth Bader Ginsburg saying, you know what, we should have just waited and done a constitutional amendment. And, how do you do a constitutional amendment? And this is my biggest thing. If you don't like the Constitution, you don't subvert it by, stacking the courts with a bunch of judges that you think are good for you today and maybe bad tomorrow. You go to the people, and if there's support, you change the Constitution. It's been done several times, right? Remember we had the first 10, right? We had the first 10, the Bill of Rights. Those are pretty important, right? The First Amendment, prohibit no law respecting the establishment of religion, prohibiting the free speech, the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble. Amendment 2, well-regulated militia. It's necessary for the security of the people. The right for the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Third Amendment, not a big deal today, but guess what? The founders thought it was. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in the time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Fourth Amendment, right to be secure in your persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. No warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or the things to be seized. Fifth Amendment, right? Pretty important. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on the presentment of an indictment or a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia. Double jeopardy, right? Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Once again, all these little technicalities. Sixth Amendment. In a criminal prosecution, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial, right? Pretty important. By an impartial jury. Pretty important, right? Scott Peterson case. Speedy trial, because we don't want people lingering in the gallows just because the prosecutors don't particularly like them, or maybe the evidence isn't good enough. You have a right to have a trial. You'd be tried where the crime has actually been committed. That's why they tried in the case where the crime was, the county where it was. It goes on to be, you have a right to know the accusations against you, to know the nature and the cause of the accusations, the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, to have compulsory process, to issue subpoenas for people that wouldn't come, right? And also to have one of my personal favorite clauses of the Sixth Amendment. You have a right to have the assistance of counsel for his or her defense. Well, the founders used his, but you know what I'm saying. Seventh Amendment, that's really doing with cases and controversies over, it's jurisdictional. Eighth Amendment, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines, nor cruel and unusual punishment. Kind of important, right? The enumeration of the Constitution for certain rights shall be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people, right? Anything not specifically reserved here goes to the people. And the 10th Amendment, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, to the people. 11th Amendment regarding jurisdiction issues as well. 12th Amendment, the electors shall meet in their respective states, vote by ballot, vice president, one of whom at least shall be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. They shall name in their ballots the person to be voted. Pretty important. 13th, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, right? Slavery, we amended the Constitution. Obviously they made a mistake in the first part, but they fixed it. But you just don't have judges say, well, this is not what it means today. You read the document as the time as it was written. If you don't like it, there's a clause in the Constitution that talks about how you change it. You don't have the judges change it. They can say it's not a good law, it's an unconstitutional law, but it's not our job to be over here being a super legislature. That's what people get upset about. Nobody likes it when you change the rules while you're literally playing the game. So, all right. I know we got a little bit on a tangent there, but hey, we had to come back. We had some sound issues. Sounds like those were all done, fixed. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching. If you haven't joined the Patreon, we'll go do that here momentarily. Maybe see why our food hasn't arrived, because now I'm getting hungry. And I know Frank is, because he was starving before we even started. And here I am depriving him of food and telling him that his sound is not working right. So anyway, thanks for watching. We're going to go do our Patreon. If you join the Patreon, we'll send you a link and you'll be able to join us and you actually can call in. So thanks for watching. Have a great night. Sorry about our sound issues. Hopefully you enjoyed the show once we got going. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.